Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
And basically, I was looking for a job. You know, growing up on a farm, you learn how to work real hard and all that, but you don't get a lot you can put on a resume. And so in the process of looking for a job, one of my best friends called me, and it was one of those "we're going to get rich" calls. You've probably all had these calls. It's people making $10,000 a month selling water filters, and he just went on and on and on about this new opportunity. In reality, he'd just gone to an opportunity meeting. Again, remember, this is back in the day. He was fired up. He was excited. I said, "Look, I'm getting married here in about 2 weeks. I'm not interested. I got to find a real job." Anyway, he called me back about 4 days later, a little more subdued this time, and says, "Hey, we need to take a serious look at this. There are a lot of people making a lot of money, and I think we can do it." And when he approached me that way, I said, "Okay, yeah, come show it to me. I'm down, always looking for opportunities." That was my introduction. I looked at this industry, network marketing, as a way I could be my own boss, set my own hours, do my own thing while I was going to school. And literally that was almost 35 years ago at this point. So
how did you do once you got started?
Well, it was kind of an interesting thing. Again, this was a company where it was basically a $5,000 deal to get in started. Wasn't one of these interesting things. So I actually had my dad co-sign on a loan for me for $5,000. We actually put a tractor up as collateral. So it was one of those things that, I'm going to try. This had to work. And so when I actually told my sponsor, when I gave him the check, I said, "Look, dude, I want you to understand this is a tractor. This is not, I'm not doing this for fun." He was a pretty good mentor. We had an office, and I said, "It's you and me, buddy. I'm going to live with you until we get this paid off." First month I made about $2,500. Second month about $3,500. Third month I had a check for just under $15,000. It's $14,760.60. And that was kind of crazy because I looked at that, and again, remember, this is 34 years ago. That was more money than I was used to making in 3 or 4 years on the farm. Working summers and that. And so I thought, you know what, I got to figure out this network marketing thing. Because I was making pretty good money, but there were also people that were making, what I thought back then was crazy money. And so I spent the next 2.5 years with that company. I became one of the youngest national marketing directors in the company. I had a big office, 3,500 square foot office, 5 executive offices. I was running meetings, 7 meetings a week, Tuesday, Thursday, 10, 2, and 7:30. And so it went well. From there, after about 2.5 years, I decided that this industry is where I wanted to be, but that was not the company that I wanted to be with. Now, that's a whole long story, but so I went on a search, ran across a little company, literally it's one of those things where the planets kind of lined up. My wife literally grew up next door to the owner and founder of that company. And so I became one of the founding distributors and you would all recognize the name of the company, but became one of the founding distributors of that company. This is back in 1992. So
how did you get success so quickly? You made $2,500 in first months. Most people in the profession, they struggle. Why do you think you had success very quickly? What did you do differently?
Well, it's one of those things where you got a couple things. Most people succeed out of 2 reasons: inspiration or desperation. And it's one of those things I couldn't fail. And it was a higher ticket item. So I went and brought in about 3 people with a $5,000 package. And that's where I made the $2,500. Again, it was one of those things where I couldn't fail. I woke up and I was more desperate than I was scared. So picking up the phone, and this is back before social media and all that sort of thing. It was old school. You make a list, you start calling them. And, one of my best friends in high school was one of my biggest rejections. I can't believe you're even calling me about one of these things. It's a scam, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, dude. So,
what is something you did really, because you say your desperation, you had to do it. So share a story of something that you didn't want to do, but you did it anyway?
Well, the biggest thing that people have got to really understand in this industry is you consistently apply proper principles over time. And literally, it's one of those things where, it's a numbers game. You've got to run through the numbers as far as some people will, some people, I know all the cliches, where some will, some won't, so what? And you just got to move on to the next person, and you're looking for people that are looking. And so, again, the biggest thing as far as, fear of dialing the phone and actually picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, Simon, it's Burke. I ran across something. I don't know if you'd be interested in it, but I think it's a way we make a lot of money." And that was the thing where, and the other thing that was kind of interesting back in the day, I built pretty much that entire organization out of the newspaper. We started running ads, so it was one of those things where I watched what others were doing, and the guys that were being successful, I looked at them and thought, gosh, I can do what they're doing. They're not that much sharper than I am. And so I started doing what they're doing. I'd listen to them. Probably the biggest thing, though, is I consistently showed up. I pretty much, I was there at the office. We would have national marketing directors coming into town. I was there all the time, almost bugging them, driving them crazy. I didn't care because, had a loan that I had to pay off. And so I would sit in, they would look at me sometimes. I'd sit in the meetings and I just say, yeah, I'd listen and then duplicate it, copy it. This is back in the day, just kind of tell you a story. Like, I learned how to give presentations from VHS tapes. I literally, the top distributor in the company filmed an opportunity meeting, and it was a crappy VHS tape. And basically, I copied the way he did it. I copied his hand movements. He'd ask a question, shaking his head, yes. And that's literally how I learned how to do a opportunity meeting. It's just rewind, watch it, rewind, watch it, rewind, watch it. Practice drawing out the compensation plan. Back then, it was an overhead projector. We didn't have PowerPoints and stuff. Remember the old overhead projectors where you'd lay the plastic thing on the screen and it would shoot it up on the wall? That's how we did opportunity meetings.
You mentioned you consistently show up. What are some routines or things you do to make sure you're consistent?
Well, again, there's 3 things you do in this business to make money: see the people, share the product, and show the plan. And outside of that, I see a lot of people that do busy work. They set up their website, or they do this, and they get business cards, and they do all these different things. And the reality of it is, at the end of the week, how many new people have they presented to? My goal back then, and this is what we taught people: if you're full-time in the business, you should be doing 4 presentations a day. Your people, my people, anybody's people, I didn't care. The presentation was basically company, product, time, and compensation. It didn't count unless you drew the compensation plan out. If you're part-time, you should be doing, 4 to 5 presentations a week. That was the biggest thing, was consistently presenting the opportunity. And so, again, some were interested, some were not. Didn't really matter. I didn't worry about the ones that weren't. The biggest thing was once they said yes, I would do everything in my power to help them. Number 1, get on the product. Number 2, get the products paid for. And number 3, move into profitability.
You said there's 3 steps. You see the people, and then you show the plan. What was the second one?
See the people, share the product, show the plan. That's STP3, and that leads to STP4, which is stuff thy pockets.
I like that. STP3. What was the turning point for you? Like, you had some success. Was there a specific light bulb moment or event you went to where things like really started taking off for you, Burke?
Well, again, I think the big turning point for me was my first, again, I can still remember the check, $14,760.60. I remember getting that check and looking at that and going, holy cow. This was more money than I was used to, more than money than I was used to making at 3 or 4 years working summers on the farm. And then, the other thing is I attended meetings. I mean, back in the day, we had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. We had an office where we were running 7 meetings a week, and there were other distributors and promoters there. And again, we had testimonials like crazy, right? They'd stand up, but I mean, at the end of when you get to the end of the compensation plan, I made $5,000, and we probably were making income claims and all the things that we don't do anymore. But I started looking at that and thought, you know what? Again, I've got to figure this out, because I looked at the guys that were making the money, and they weren't any smarter or any more talented than I was. I'm like, if I just do what they do, that's one thing that I've learned is I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I just have to copy the smartest guy in the room. Do what he does. And that's the thing that's nice about this business is it's literally, in most cases, you have an upline, and if your upline's not a competent upline, go to the next person, because they have a vested interest in you. If you're making money, guess who else is making money? So they have a vested interest in your success, where, a lot of times in jobs and things like that, people don't want you to succeed because you start competing with them. Well, that's different in this industry. The only way you can be successful is by helping others be successful.
In the 35 years, how have you seen the profession change? Aside from obviously the technology.
Well, it's evolved just like everything else. Technology's evolved. Compensation plans have evolved. You think back then, we think of a simple thing like drop shipping. I mean, that was unheard of back then. When and I'll just use an example. Back in the day, the goal was to hit direct distributor. And what direct distributor meant is you could literally order directly from the company, right? If I signed you up, you couldn't just call up and order the product. You had to go through me. If I was a direct distributor, I would order the product. The product would come to me, then I would give it to you. Well, because of that, commissions were paid directly to me. And then if you went and signed somebody up, I would have to keep track of the commissions and then pay the commissions to you, and then you would pay it to them. And so, I mean, simple things that we take for granted now, drop shipping is a huge thing. International expansion, currency exchange. Again, I sat on a lot of distributor advisory boards, and half the time we'd sit there and discuss, well, the Canadian dollar's worth 1.25 and we should be getting 1.29, and go back and forth. And so, just technology growing on a global basis. It used to be a nightmare for a company to open up countries. Now, COVID changed a lot of things drastically, but, it's evolved just like everything else. Compensation plans have evolved. The high volume requirements, you don't see a lot of compensation plans now, where it was a $5,000 deal to get involved. I mean, most of those have been either shut down or evolved out of that. I think compensation plans are evolving more and more and more, where, depending upon what people want to do, you've got social media now has changed the world drastically. You've got social media influencers, you've got distributors. And so, everything is evolving. And that's the thing is, I can tell you that kind of the crazy part about that, Simon, is, in 34 years of doing this, I've never seen this industry as a whole in a flux like it is.
What do you mean?
Well, you look at some of the big icon companies, and basically a lot of that, I believe, happened with COVID. If your organization was built on doing meetings and being able to meet and events and that sort of thing, and that was your culture, if you didn't adapt, you're gone. They're not just struggling, they're gone. You look at some of the bigger companies, they're not struggling, they're gone. They've merged, they've been taken over, they've been all these different things. And so with that, I see a lot of distributors that are in a flux going, holy cow, I've gone from this compensation plan to this compensation plan, and it's a nightmare. I've gone from a depth compensation plan to a width compensation plan, and the trouble is as a leader, you build to whatever your compensation plan is. If it's a unilevel, you build wide and you get paid, width versus depth. If it's a binary or a trinary or something like that, you build depth. And so, that's what a lot of people don't really realize in this industry is, compensation models are designed to create certain activities and to build certain ways. And some of the companies that merge, their compensation plans don't mesh, and it's a freaking nightmare. And, one of my frustrations with the industry is a lot of the company owners and a lot of the executives in that, they don't understand that. They've never built an organization. And so, that's been a little bit of frustration. I've been pretty successful in the industry, but I've also been pretty frustrated with the industry, and a lot of it is because of the model that the companies have.
So recently you launched your own company. This is what, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago?
2 years ago, yeah, on Friday was our 2-year anniversary.
So first of all, congrats, surviving up to 2 years. So a lot of people would say, like you mentioned a couple of companies before that's struggling. And a lot of people would say post-COVID, the industry and the profession has gone down. If you look at all the major companies, year after year, sales are going down, maybe to pre-COVID. I guess COVID was like an anomaly, right? Go back to pre-COVID. What gave you the confidence to say, hey, the industry is going down, but we can start something new?
Well, I think, again, part of what happened with COVID is, there was a weeding out process. Some of the companies that were, some of the compensation plans. And again, I go back to compensation models. I mean, I look at the compensation models that a lot of the older companies have. High volume requirements, crazy gotchas in their compensation plan. You've got to do so many wide in order to get paid so many levels deep, and just the meat grinder of the compensation plans. And what people need to realize is there's a lot of competition out there for home business anymore. People can go drive Uber. They can Toro their cars. They can do Airbnbs. They can do all these different things that weren't available 20 years ago. And so to me, the industry has to get better. We have to get more competitive. A lot of times high priced products, and we're an MLM, so we can charge 2-3 times as much as you can go to the store and buy products. People aren't putting up with that anymore. And I think a lot of companies are having a hard time adjusting just to what's happening in the real world.
Follow up to that. What would, obviously your company's built around that. Without talking about your company, what changes do you think needs to be made? Obviously the high price prospect, low volume, what changes need to be made for the sustainability of our profession, given that there's a lot more competition out there, like the Uber, the freelancing and all that?
Well, it's got to get better. It's got to get easier. The high volume requirements in compensation plans aren't going to cut it anymore. All of the requirements in compensation plans are not going to cut it anymore. I mean, I'll just give you an example of what I mean by requirements of a company. So I was one of the founding distributors of a company, right? This is back in, 2003, 4, something like that. One of the founding distributors. In order to be a blue diamond, you had to do 25,000 points in volume 4 weeks in a row. On top of that, you literally had to have 7-star 500 legs in order to get paid your generational check match. Well, 7-star 500 legs means you had to have 7 personally sponsored people that were doing 500 on the left, 500 on the right, every single week, weekly. So reality of it is, to be a blue diamond, I was responsible for 14 legs to do 500 points in volume every single week in order to maximize the compensation plan. Well, when you look at a comp plan like that, and here's the reality of what happened. If one of those legs fell out of qualification, instead of doing 500, they only did 300 in volume, guess what would happen? Guess who would buy that volume? I would, right? And that's kind of the ugly secret that we don't talk about, but these high volume, high requirement compensation models, people are going, holy cow, you know what? I can go drive Uber for a couple hours a day and make an extra $300, $400, $500 a month. And that covers me. And so we've got to get better as an industry. We've got to be more competitive as an industry. Our products can't be overpriced. We've got to be competitive if you're in a nutrition company with what you can go buy at GNC or anywhere else. Depending on what your products, doesn't matter. You've got to be competitive in this industry, or I think you're going to struggle. The other thing, if you're not growing on a global basis with social media, you're absolutely you're missing it, because there are markets out there where a lot of the countries around the world don't have the opportunities like we have here in the United States. So and with the laws and things that have changed, companies should be able to go international. Again, drop shipping, Amazon, eBay, things like that have changed where shipping is now no longer an issue. Merchant accounts, you don't have to worry about currencies exchanges and things like that. So, there's a lot of factors that you've got to do to be competitive in this industry. If not, I think you're going to struggle.
Yeah, definitely. In what ways have you seen the industry not change? Still relatively the same.
The one thing that's interesting to me is social media. And because of social media, when we were in Hawaii, I think Todd Falcone talked about, social media is this wonderful thing, but it's like an insatiable beast, right? You got to feed it every single day. And, you're only as good as your last post and all that sort of thing. It has been great as far as expanding the organization and that sort of thing. But what hasn't changed is the relationship that you've got to build in your organization if you want to be successful. You can go out and sponsor 100 people this month through social media. But does that 100, this business is the reality of this business. It's pretty simple. It's about two things: duplication and retention, right? Now, if you go and you sponsor 100 people this month, and 99 of those people aren't there next month, basically what you've got is you're a good salesman. My goal is I want to, 5 into 25 and 125 and 625 and 15,000. I want the duplication there where you're building an organization, because the idea of residual income, that's what it's about. It's residual, right? Where you're on the beach and your organization's still growing. So, social media has been great, but I think there's also an adjustment where we've got to adjust back a little bit to just the old school stuff, get them started. Make a list of 5 people. Let's get you, let's move you from buying the product. Let's move you into, at least you got your product paid for, and so I think it's coming. I think it's evolving back, the pendulum swinging back. It's disappointing. I see a lot of the posts of, you don't have to talk to anybody. You just, you do this and it just automatically builds your downline. Well, whatever. You still got to pick up the phone. You still got to build the relationship if you want a long-term viable, organization.
Talk a little bit about selling the dream. I think over the years, maybe after the FTC, we talked about more about getting a couple customers, part-time income. But I think with like you said, the competition of Uber or renting your car out, and Airbnb, it's like if you're going to make a part-time income and it's so difficult, I'd rather do something else than network marketing. But at the same time, network marketing is still like really the only way for most people to get the American dream now. What are your thoughts about selling the dream more and not as product focused?
Well, again, you want to, and this is what I talk about. I am not a product guy. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'll tell you, I can count on the one hand the number of customers that I've signed up. And the reason for that is I believe in I believe in this industry and the compensation model, right? And so, when I talk to people, I talk to them about financial independence. What are your options to create financial independence? You want to create part-time income? That's great. Go do whatever. But if you want true walk away financial independence, life-changing income, what are your options? You know what? I've driven Uber. I've messed around. I drive Uber. I get bored, go do Uber. I did Uber one time at Sundance Film Festival. It was awesome. You go meet stars. But again, you get paid by the hour. You get paid by the ride, right? So it's a great part-time thing, but it's not freedom. And so, for those who really want to go and create financial independence, what are their options? And reality of it is, in most cases, you've got 3 or 4 options. One, you can inherit it. Well, that's pretty easy. Either got it or you don't. 2, you can win the lottery or be some special athlete and again, it's one of those things, well, you're either a phenomenal athlete or you're not, or a rock star or whatever. Or you can start a business. And I've started businesses over the years. Me and a friend, we got kind of bored in our company. We started a business. It was awesome. $7 million later, we looked at each other and go, man, that was the dumbest idea we've ever done. And so, it's one of those things where we can show people where they can start a business from their home, from their phone, from their computer, and literally through leverage and create, they can create financial independence where, they can put their own numbers on their paycheck. And the other big thing about that is, I see these posts and I even hear comments about people where they're going, oh my gosh, if I don't make $10,000 a month in the first 90 days, I'm done. And okay, dude. Well, first of all, have you ever made $10,000 a month in your life? Well, if you haven't, just because you signed up in this company doesn't give you the God-given right to make 10,000. You've got to grow and personally develop into that point where you've kind of earned that, right? And so, to me, there isn't a better opportunity. There isn't a better, it's the true bastion of the free enterprise system than this industry. I mean, I can take somebody if they have the desire, and again, they have the desire and whenever I've done anything, and that's one of the things that I can tell you. I set up a 5-year plan. I've had a lot of companies that have tried to recruit me. They've offered me basically, okay, what's it going to take? Just look, understand something. One of the reasons I'm successful is if I decide to do something, I'm here.
Yeah.
Whether I've got to go raise money, whether I've got to go, whatever, I'm here. This is not a 90-day deal for me. This is if I plant my flag, we're going to go build an organization. And so, that's one of the things that people have got to kind of get their head wrapped around in this industry. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not, we hope, do the spray and pray technique. It's not. You can apply proper principles over time and you're almost guaranteed success.
I like how you broke down the financial independence. I think that is what got me into the profession, and how you are business focused as well. I think it's safe to say, I'm definitely, for me, if I was product and customer focused, I definitely would not be here today. You definitely would not be here today either. You probably done something else. Right?
What people really got to look at is, what do they? And this is a question that I ask people all the time. Why are you here? And back in the day, it used to be, what are your dreams? What is this? What bigger house, faster car, what vacations, whatever. And all of those things are obtainable. But what most people are looking for today is the ability to be their own boss, set their own hours, do their own thing. All of the other stuff will come, but just get out of the rat race a little bit, be able to coach for your own kids like you coach your kids in baseball, right? Be able to spend time versus working on somebody else's dream. And that's huge. Get them and really ask them why they're here. And so if you're here, in most cases, it's for the money, right? Yeah. And yet we get so caught up in, I see weight loss companies, right? And literally they hand out a pill. Have you lost weight yet? You lost weight yet? You lost weight yet? Guys, products are a means to an end, right? Most companies have viable products. that you will derive benefit from if you take them versus not taking them, right? The big question is, what is the compensation model? If I do this, what do I get paid? How do I get paid? And that's another thing, Simon, that I'll tell you. It's shocking to me how many people have no idea how their compensation models work, and the gotchas and the this and the that and the that. And that's one of the big frustrations I have. I live in the state of Utah, which is, it's kind of the network marketing capital of the world. And I can go up and down the Wasatch Frontier, and I have, because of our success and our success in Asia and that sort of thing. A lot of companies have called and wanted me to consult and that sort of thing. And you go in and you meet with the management, you meet with the owners, and you ask a simple fundamental question. Why do you have the model you have? What are you trying to accomplish? And the vast majority of executives and the vast majority of owners have no idea why they have the model they have, other than that's what some consultant told them was the new latest hottest thing in the industry. They've never worked it. They've never built it. They've never seen the hidden gotchas. I mean, I've been, in meetings with literally the board, and I said, well, what about this, this particular issue? And they said, well, that's not how ours works. They go, no, that's exactly how yours works. I get on the whiteboard and I draw it out for them. They're like, oh man, that sucks. Is that really how ours works? Read it. It's in your own information. They've never built it. They've never done what you and I do. And so, again, that was one of my biggest frustrations in the industry is, why are we going to Malaysia with a $700 package with a $250 auto ship? When the average income's less than $500 US a month for 90% of the population. Whoa, it's a proven model. That's bull crap. Proven to who? They're not on a plane away from their family building the organization. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that, but that is one of my big frustrations.
This is one of my favorite questions, and we're going to go wrap up soon. What is your worst moment in this profession?
I don't know. You always have your ups and downs. The one thing that I can say is it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. Probably my biggest disappointment was when, in most cases, companies let me down. And I'm not one of those guys that have jumped from company to company to company. In 30 years, I've been, primarily by probably 5 total. But, when the company does stuff and you go, dude, and I know you're screwing us when you do that. And they do it on purpose. And so that's probably my biggest disappointment. I'm to the point where I don't get overly excited about stuff. I don't get overly depressed about stuff. Again, it's one of those things, you apply proper principles over time, you're almost guaranteed success. And so that's probably it. I'm not an emotional roller coaster guy where, oh man. So,
hey, thank you so much. As we wrap up, some really quick questions to pick your brain, and these can be one word, one sentence. First one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes, Burke?
I do what others don't, so I experience what others won't.
What's the one habit that helps you become successful?
Consistency.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Basically, find somebody who has what you want and duplicate what they're doing.
What's your favorite prospecting tool? So say you have someone that's interested. Do you meet them? Do you get on a phone call? Do you do a Zoom first? Do you send a video? What do you like to use?
I'm kind of old school, so I'm a Zoom, at this point it's a Zoom call. And then, there's nothing that beats face-to-face.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
Probably eBay.
Hey, what do you buy on eBay?
It depends. One of the things that I do is I set goals. And if I hit a goal, then I like to fish. So it's ridiculous the amount of fishing stuff I have. I mean, literally, I probably have 100 rods at this point. Boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of lures. So, I'll buy a $5 lure to celebrate a success I had. And I've already got 10 of them, but I think they're cool. So
That's cool.
my wife goes, "Do you need that?" And I said, "Well, honey, I don't live in the land of need. I live in the land." So
that's cool. eBay, I laugh. I asked you that because eBay is one of my favorite apps. I don't have, you have hundreds of fishing rods. I don't even have one, but I go to eBay to buy baseball cards. So,
yeah. So, everybody kind of has their bias. So that's kind of what I do.
what are 2 or 3 books you could recommend?
I would say The Jackrabbit Factor would be number 1 by Leslie Householder. I would say The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Murphy. And one that I just barely read was The 5 a.m. Club. And I didn't read it. I basically listened to it on audio.
And here's the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Imagine you had to start all over again and you knew no one. You didn't know your kids, you didn't know your wife, Brandi, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to build a network marketing business from scratch?
I'd go to the people that are in the palm of my hand. That's on my phone. I mean, basically,
you have no contacts. You have 0 contacts.
Well, again, it boils down to you've got to just start talking to people, and you got to get into their people and into their people's people and into their people's people. I mean, I was with a company where didn't have a single contact in Asia. And as we basically worked through the organization, we ended up with a group of about 700,000 in Asia. So, it's about all you need is one. Once you have one, they know 100 people you don't know.
So right now, where would you go then? I know you have to talk to people. Where would you go? The market, the fishing club, or what would you do?
The first thing that I always do, and I mean, literally, I can show you, I'm a yellow pad guy. I have lists of people.
Oh, no. So the question is, you don't have a list. Your list is 0. How would you build a list?
Well, I mean, you got to get out and see the people. I mean, I would start in Utah. I mean, I don't know. I'd go start talking to people, either at the mall. And again, you got to have a list. There's nobody that doesn't have a list at this point. And see, that's the thing, is people get so caught up in social media and this and that, and I got to go do all these. I'm going to do a Facebook post. Guys, you've got enough people in the palm of your hand to create financial independence. I mean, and I do trainings about this, and people go, "Oh, I don't want to contact I've already contacted." Here's the deal. When I ask people, when I do presentations, I always ask 2 questions. And the question is how many of you before today have been involved, exposed, or seen another network marketing organization? Guess how many hands go up? Every single hand. Doesn't matter where I am, whether I'm in Mexico, Malaysia, Minnesota, doesn't matter. Then when I ask the next question, how many of you actually had a good experience with that company or made money? Not as many hands go up. So here's the deal. In my opinion, everyone in the world at this point has been exposed to network marketing. Because of that exposure, there's a skepticism. But also because of that exposure, right here in their heart, they're going, man, if I could just find the right company with the right product, with the right upline, with the right team, I would love to have what network marketing offers. And so I'm pretty bold about it. I mean, people ask me what I do. I said, I own a network marketing company. Most people go, really? What company? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, so like I say, if I had to start from scratch, I'd just go start talking to people, and it wouldn't take me very long, and I would be, and who do you know? And at some point I'd be at the top level of their list, and we're off to the races.
As we wrap up, any last words or advice? And then what's the best way our listeners and viewers can connect with you, Burke?
The biggest thing is just decide what you want from this industry. And make that decision one time. Don't vacillate. Make that decision one time. And I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter whether it's $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $5 a month, whatever. Make that decision and then go for it. Best way to get a hold of me, Facebook, just Burke Green. They can reach out. I'm around.
Hey, ML Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Burke Green. So keep up the momentum and head over to mlnation.com. Click on the podcast tab, and the show notes or the nuggets of wisdom that Burke shared will be right there, including his links to social media profiles. Definitely follow him and check him out. Hey, in order to be successful in life, in business, and network marketing, you must help others. So Burke, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with ML Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
All right. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, ML Nation, great show from Burke Green. Make sure you head over to mlnation.com, click on the podcast tab, go follow him, and please leave us a review, subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. It takes us a lot of time to put these together, especially Burke. He is one of the legends, been in the profession 30-something years, also launched his own company recently, and just, I think this was a really interesting episode talking about the changes in the profession and what we must do, right? At the end of the day, I think it's selling the dream. I've talked about this before a couple episodes ago when I was recapping from the Leaders to Leaders Mastermind that I spoke at. That was done by Rob Sperry. This was back in May. Talk about selling the dream, right? Kind of we forgot about network marketing. It's the dream. Why are we doing this? I know I got started because I wanted to be financially free. I wanted to have time flexibility. I want to do what I want. I don't want to be working on someone's dream. Am I working late? I want to work late for myself to build something, not to work for my boss, for my company. I want to do something for myself. And that's what got me excited, right? And I think over the years, we swung all the way the other way, was just customer focus, make a couple extra income. But if you look at that, things have changed, right? Like, I think there was the FTC issues back in the late 2000s, but now that, and then people were customer focused. But if you just go out to get a couple customers, it's hard work, right? I'm not saying customers are not important, but you can make a lot more money doing freelancing, doing side gigs, Uber, rent, Airbnb, stuff like that. But what network marketing still has that nothing can compete is the dream of financially freedom. Right now, it's not guaranteed, but you have a chance for that. Like for me to drive Uber, there's zero chance for me to financially free, right? For me to go out there and rent my Airbnb, very little chance. First of all, I needed the money to buy the properties. And when I got started, none of this even existed. The only chance is really this awesome profession that we're marketing for the average person to make a good income and be able to control his hours, control his time. And I think we kind of lost sight of that. And I think if you're listening, you're watching this, you get me, right? Hey, give me a feedback and comments. Let me know if you agree. It's because this profession allows us to do things that we can't do. We can't achieve anything else. And we kind of forgot about that. Burke taught a lot about things, is that at the end of the day, it's about the basics, right? The saying that he does over and over again, right? Reaching out to people, doing invites. And prospecting is all about timing. Most people will say, no, I'm just following up, and do the things that other people won't do. And a lot of people say, no, you just move on. And I think another testament to the profession, I think this should be, if your belief in the profession is a little weakened, is that I agree with Burke, almost everyone knows about network marketing. Now, they don't have negative perception of it because of bad experience, or they just hear bad stories of the person never been involved, right? But the fact that still exists, the fact that entrepreneurs like Burke still launched the company 2 years ago, tells you that, and then this year we've had a couple owners been on our show, right? Launching companies. We have Mark Sterling. That's the first one that came to mind. And that tells you like this profession's here to stay. Right now, recently I read something like how, I don't want to get into political, but the US government loves our profession. In most countries, they love it because the dream is still alive, right? Like if you live in a big city like New York, LA, especially when things are expensive, housing is so expensive. Average house is 600,000, maybe even more by that. I haven't even checked it. Like you can't be the American dream is dead. But our profession allows us to do that. That is hard, yes, but at least you have that dream. Or you have, like my dad, just rags to riches, was a doctor, worked hard, is able to buy a house. I'll tell you one thing, the house he bought in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, if he was a doctor today, no way he could afford that house. Back then, 1979, I think it was like 300,000. Now, I think that's like, the house is worth like 4 or 5 million. No way a doctor can come out there. It's just, and my dad was pretty financially free after a couple of years, right? But the thing, I don't want to get political, but things have changed. The economy has changed, right? For most people now, you become a doctor, make 200,000, 300,000 to buy a $5 million house. Yeah, you can afford it, but you're working, just slaving away for years and years and years. And not having time with kids. Like I didn't see my dad much, right? I want to do baseball. I want to go to Yankee Stadium. I want to watch the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. I never could do that. I think that's what the amazing part of our profession is: the financial, the dream, the financial freedom, the potential for financial freedom. I think that's something that if you're in the comfort zone, you need to change, right? Like all your dreams and goals are outside the comfort zone. So ask yourself, why are you doing this? And number two is, if you're doing it already, in what ways do you need to change? Maybe you have to be emotionally more detached, like Burke shared. Like the good is never as good as it is, and the bad is never as bad. Those things don't get them too excited, doesn't get them too down, right? And the person, you want to make 100,000, 10,000 a month in 90 days. If you never made that much money before, you're going to change. In what ways do you have to change? So my question is, do you really still love this profession, believe in it? And yes, in what ways do you have to change? And because I think the skills are out there. You just listen to the MLM Nation podcast. What are skills, techniques? They're out there. Go to our website. They're out there. But the question is, will you change and be the person that you need to become? Anyway, that's what I have for you. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen to us. And also follow Burke. Go to the show notes. The link will be there to follow him. And take action what you learned. And think about why you're doing this and what ways you have to change. Take action and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.